Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Munoz, CEO of the experience agency D Flash. Each week, I bring on another business leader who's doing some game changing work. And this episode is no different. I'm super excited to have Lisa Bridge, who's the president and CEO of Ben Bridge Jeweler, on to talk about how she's sort of changing the game in jewelry, which something is near and dear to my heart. And I think you'll enjoy it too. Take a listen. Hey, Lisa, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you, Laura.
So I love all things jewelry as we've already been talking. So this is going to be lots of fun. Um, um, but as you probably know, every episode I ask the same first question, and I'm always fascinated as to where the answers go for my guests, and I'm sure you're going to be no different. So Lisa, what was your first job?
My first job, I grew up in the jewelry business. I'm lucky to be fifth generation here at Ben Bridge. And so really my first paid job was on Saturdays when our mom would have had enough of us during the week. She would send us into the office with our dad, and we would open up old job envelopes from jewelry that had already been repaired and returned. And we would open those job envelopes before they were shredded to make sure nothing was left inside that envelope. And so I think we were paid about 25 cents an hour, and we got an extra nickel if we found anything during the process.
A nickel. Whoa, you were rolling.
Big bonus, big bonus.
You were rolling in it.
Big
uh,
time. But it was always fun to get to spend time, with our dad and to be in the office and to feel like we were contributing.
Totally. It it always makes you feel to be a part of something that's happening right then and there. Okay, so you go from opening those envelopes before they get shredded to now being the president and CEO of Ben Bridge Jeweler. How did that all happen? What was that story?
Yeah, well, I feel very lucky because I grew up in the business. So I, weekends were spent in the office, or spring break was spent in, down in LA, crisscrossing the city to visit shopping malls. And if we were lucky, we got a day at the end for Disneyland as a reward for for all of our shopping center visits. Um, and but I feel really lucky that I grew up also knowing that I should do what I feel passionate about. My parents said, find that passion and pursue it. Go be a productive member of society in some way. And so, though I grew up in the business, I thought I was going to be a classroom teacher. I
Wow.
loved working with kids, and that was kind of how my brain worked. So I went to college at Washington University in St. Louis, studied elementary education, got my teaching certificate, uh, but really the experience of being president of my sorority while I was at WashU really brought me back to business, and how challenging it could be. I had 130 girls in my chapter. I had 18 directors and 9 vice presidents, and I learned more from that experience than I ever could have in any business school class. Learning about
Wow.
management and delegation, integrity, all of those pieces were really fascinating to me and really challenging. And I had more fun working in our store that holiday season than I ever had before. And I went, I know I've just spent the last 4 years preparing to be a teacher, but I think that I want to join the family business. I think that's what's going to drive me. And so made that big turn. I remember I had been, jokingly saying to people, well, I'm, throwing my degree out the window. And one of our long-term associates in the store where I grew up working, uh, she said to me very prophetically, "You don't know how now, but your background's going to set you up perfectly for something."
Mm-hmm.
And so I came into the business full time, worked in the stores. So really more than just that holiday season, but having that day to day experience of working in the store, of learning from incredible associates. Then I went down and got my gemological certification, down in Southern California from the Gemological Institute of America, found a great passion for gemstones and this world of gems and jewelry, and brought that back up to our merchandising department. And so worked in merchandising for um, a shorter time than I had anticipated. I really expected that was where I was going to be for years because I
Right.
really love our merchandise. I mean, that's where it all starts is
Of
having
course.
beautiful, yeah, beautiful jewelry and watches. Um, and after about a year in in our merchandising department, we had two people who were in charge of our training and education. A man by the name of Orly Solomon, who retired after 50 years with the company at the age of 85.
Wow.
Just an extraordinary man. And he had slowed down the last couple of years, and so we thought that once he retired, the remainder um, would be taken by our other vice president of education. And right around the same time as his retirement, she ended up taking a job with GIA as their global head of education. And so how that associate years before had foreseen coming, my background really did set me up perfectly for for the role in education. I had the pedagogical background, had the gemological background, worked in the stores, understood our merchandise, and really who the company is on a deep level. So prior to stepping into the role of president, I spent the last 8 years being in charge of our training and education of our incredible 1,200 associates.
Wow.
And
So it does work.
and then have spent the last 2 years as president and the last, I guess, 8 months as CEO, maybe 10 months
Fantastic.
as CEO,
Fabulous.
wherever we,
And
November, I guess. Yeah, 10 months.
wow. And so what was like the best thing about, because it sounds like, obviously having the education background completely set you up for success to do the job that you had for 8 years. What was the one thing that you learned out of it that became like a key for you as you grew up in your career uh, within the family business?
Sorry, what did I hope to achieve? What did
What
I
was
gain?
that? Oh, what was the kind of what was one of some of the big lessons that you learned along the way working there for the 8 years?
Yeah. Well, it was a wonderful opportunity because our business is all about people. It's about our customers, it's about our associates, and it's about our partners. And so I feel very fortunate because I really was able to have a really personal connection with our team. And so getting to provide the tools and the opportunities for our associates to grow and be successful was extremely valuable. Seeing that, I remember the first associate that I saw go from one of my new associate seminars to attending our leadership to going on to management and seeing her be successful was really exciting to feel like hopefully I was some small part of that growth and that success for her.
Awesome. And so backing up a little bit, so how long has your family had the company?
So we're a 107-year-old, still family-run business. So we were started by my great great grandfather, who was a watchmaker, and he had journeyed across the country following the railroad because the train conductors were the ones who kept the trains moving on time. And so the conductors had to have their pocket watches serviced and certified every year that they were keeping appropriate time. And so he and his family journeyed west along the railroad, and Seattle was the end of the line. So he set up a small watch shop in downtown Seattle.
Wow. And today you guys are huge on the West Coast.
Yeah, we have 95 stores in 11 Western states and one province of Canada.
Wow. And 1,200
Yeah.
associates.
And 1,200 associates. Yes. Yeah, well, and we've really been able to grow because of those associates. Really have grown organically and have grown because of people. I mentioned Orly earlier. Orly was our first Benbridge store manager to not have the last name Bridge.
Ah,
And and when we expanded, we were opening a store that was going to be our second store was going to be 20 miles away. At the time, it felt like this huge
huge
risk
thing.
to open a second store. And I guess there was a great debate um, amongst my grandfather and my great uncle, who were running the business, who were co-CEOs at the time, about, well, how are we going to have this store, and have somebody else run it? And so my great uncle Herb said, no, 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 we have to have Orly stay in our downtown store. He's our top salesperson. We can't risk losing him. And my grandfather said, no, we have to go with our best foot forward. Orly is our best. We have to move him into the new store. And fortunately, Bob won out. My grandfather won out on that argument. And because of that, we were able to be successful from day one in that store. And by seeing the example that Orly set of taking ownership of that store, he always said that he felt like it was his name over the door. And that's how he took care of every customer. That's how he took care of every associate who walked through his doors. And by that example, that's how we've continued to operate our business and really grow because of great people who have that sense of ownership as we've entered new stores and new markets.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys go from that one store to 95?
Uh, Slowly over time,
Right.
we really grew for many years, opening just a few stores each year as the right opportunities presented themselves. And we've been lucky to be able, because of our vision and how we have built the business, to really build steadily and with strength over time.
Amazing. And so, what made you decide, okay, I've been doing this for 8 years, I can take on this next level of executive leadership?
Hmm. It's a great question. Well, we have a tradition in our business of really turning over the business relatively early on, um, in in the career, in the CEO's career, um, because as a retail business, we have to continue to evolve. We have
Hmm.
to continue to change to meet customers' needs in each moment in time. And so Ben turned the business over to his two sons, to Bob and Herb, when he was just 58, 59 years old. His sons at the time were 23 and 29, which is extraordinary. His whole world was tied up in the business at that time. And then Herb and Bob did the same for their sons, John and Ed, both retiring at 59. And so it was a few years after 59, when John and Ed retired, in this last generation, but felt like it was time. Felt like I had a an understanding of the business on a deep level, had been contributing in a larger way over the last few years in terms of setting the direction and the vision for the business. And we're in the midst of a great evolution in the business and in what, across all of retail, across jewelry, but also within our company. And so it felt like the right time to propel that vision and propel that evolution forward.
Wow, fantastic. And how do you feel like now that you're sort of in it for like the last like 10 months, as you said, like, do you feel like, yeah, I got this?
Some days less so. I'm very lucky because I have a wonderful team, surrounded by really wonderful and talented people, and so I'm lucky to uh, work with them and draw from their knowledge and their experience, and so that makes a very big difference. And I think that in anyone's career, in anyone's job, everyone's just trying to figure it out. Everyone's
Yes.
trying to do the best that they can every day. I think it's easy to assume that people um, know exactly what they're doing and know how to do it. And I think I'm certainly better at my job today than I was on February 1. Um, and hopefully a year from now I'll be that much better as well.
Awesome. Oh, I have no doubt. So one of the things I noticed when I was like perusing your website and virtually shopping for lots of different things, was that you guys are using technology in a smarter way. And I was pleasantly surprised because I'm obviously on sites on Instagram all the time, looking up stuff and
Mhm.
pinning it to different boards for when I want to go back later and look at it. And you all have clearly figured out that obviously women have been behind this brand because one of the things I noticed was that how you sort of merchandise your items even online was quite refreshing. Was that something that you took had a say in and had and thought about deeply?
Well, thank you. We want to make it easy and fun to be able to discover beautiful jewelry, and learn and feel inspired. And so we have a great marketing and e-commerce team, who continue to invest in that business and want to use technology to enable that wonderful connection and enable all the things that we can't do in person. One of the most exciting pieces of technology that I think we've invested in this last year is with our bridal brand called Bella Ponte, which means beautiful bridge. And and with this experience, we have beautiful designs. Our bridal buyer Angela has done a wonderful job of designing some really beautiful and well designed engagement rings that are going to stand the test of time. But if you say, I love this ring, but really what I'd like is I want it in rose gold, or
Yeah.
I like the bottom of this one and the top of that one, or I have this totally different idea than anything I see here. Well, we want to be able to make that happen. And so we've introduced hologram technology into our stores. And so if there's a small tweak or colors or shapes, things like that, we can show you right there in the store what that ring is going to look like. In our hologram machine, we can turn it any direction you want, make it bigger, zoom in, see the details, and then you say, yeah, that's my ring. But if you say, I have this totally different idea, we'll say, great, let's work with it and come back tomorrow and I'll show you what it will look like. Show it to you in the hologram. Um,
Awesome.
and, and if it's exactly right, then we'll send you home with a little cone to put over your phone. So you can take that hologram home with you and show it to all of your friends what your ring is going to look like while we're making it. And it takes us just 3 weeks to actually make that ring. And when it does arrive, it comes with a little My Story card that will show you your ring being made at every step along the process, from the casting to the polishing to the setting, all the way through. You have that full story of your ring that's exclusive to you.
Okay. Um, you've made me want to get in the plane and come to Seattle.
Well, we'd love to have you. Come on out.
um, and for no other reason that I want to play with the hologram. I really do. Because I geek out on that kind of technology. Also, like it's oftentimes hard for me to figure out what my ring size is,
Mm.
because I wear rings on different fingers, as most women do.
Mhm.
But I'm like, depending on the cut of the ring, sometimes I'm a 5, sometimes I'm a 6, sometimes I'm a 7. Um,
Absolutely.
so it's oftentimes a gigantic pain in the behind. And like when you want to buy something that's really nice, you don't want to deal with all that like uncertainty or having to have it like stretched. I'm like, well, I'd pay more if I could get it like custom made, so I don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it.
Well, we're
Um,
here for you.
that's fantastic. Oh my gosh. And when you guys did the hologram, what was the consumer response? I'm sure they went nuts.
It's been a great response. The has such a great wow factor,
Yeah.
and and people are really responding to it because it's hard to imagine what something's going to look like, and particularly if it's for an engagement or that kind of a purchase that maybe you have probably haven't made before, and so to try and envision what something will look like is challenging, and so people are really appreciative of having this very visual way of being able to communicate, and so some people can see it in their mind's eye, but it's nice to have that reference point. Know we're all talking about the same thing, the same ring, and create something bespoke for them.
That's so awesome. So, interesting jewelry trend. What are you seeing where people are, especially women, are buying rings that, that's not about engagement ring. It's just like their kind of own statement ring. Like, I feel myself sort of gravitating towards getting myself like my own kind of cool, like signet ring or index
Yeah.
finger ring that's like really cool and a little bit more pricey,
Mhm.
but it sort of means something more to me. I'm not yet engaged or married, so that, yeah, obviously I'm leaving my ring finger alone. But I feel like more and more of my girlfriends as well, we're all sort of looking at like our jewelry habits have sort of changed in terms of the types of jewelry that we'll buy for ourselves. Are you saying that yourself?
Absolutely. I love a statement ring myself. I'm wearing a large one as we speak, a large gemstone ring, and I think that women do deserve to celebrate themselves and to have something that symbolizes an accomplishment, or a great day at work, or just I deserve it. I think that those are just as valid a reason of a beautiful piece of jewelry as anything else. And before I took on this role, I actually created my own collection in our stores. Um, and it's all about women buying themselves beautiful jewelry, because I was
Oh,
looking at the jewelry that my friends were wearing, and it was beautiful, but it wasn't necessarily real. They didn't know that they could come in and buy a piece of affordable jewelry, that was made well, that they could wear and enjoy. And instead, they were spending real money, but getting things that were made from brass and glass, or that would fall apart.
right.
And I just think that they deserve better than that. Why shouldn't they have precious metals and genuine gemstones? Something that can tell a story.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like I feel that like, my jewelry always tells a story. Like um, it's sort of helped my business along the way because of the jewelry that I wear. Because it's usually a conversation starter. Like I wear all different types of kind of interesting kind of costume necklaces, some clunky, some more expensive looking, and they tell a story. And when I look back at those pieces, I can sort of point to like a significant moment in my career when I've worn that piece. But it's
Hmm.
interesting that like now I'm at this kind of point in my career where we've been at this for a while. The idea of like treating myself to a few good pieces feels different, and I think it's interesting that we're female entrepreneurs, especially, that we're always so deeply in it that we often forget to celebrate ourselves.
It's easy to do. It's easy to do. Uh, one of the things I really wanted to do when I took on the role of president is have some way of celebrating that. So I bought myself a pair of what I call my big girl earrings. I bought a beautiful pair of signature Forevermark diamond stud earrings, that just felt
Fabulous.
like they were appropriate for where I was in my career, and I love those earrings, and I feel great in them. And part of why I feel great in them is because I did that for myself, and and it celebrates this moment and this accomplishment. And women should do that for themselves.
Yeah, it's I think that's, it's interesting. I hope the trend starts to continue where like the idea of treating yourself, which is not just a spa day, but like with something that means something to you, continues. And do you see like I saw the stuff with Morganite, and I had never heard
Mm.
of Morganite, although I'm obsessed with all things rose gold. Can
Oh
you tell me
yeah.
more about this?
Definitely. Morganite is a beautiful gemstone, and it's perfect in rose gold. So you are spot on there. It just has this wonderful warmth to it, just this great rosy color. And I love gemstones. I'm a gem geek, so there's no doubt
Right.
that I can go to a nerdy extreme. But there is something wonderful about it, a colored gemstone,
Yeah.
that just speaks to you. There's every one of them is going to be different. They're all going to have a slightly different, hue to them. There's going to be one that just calls your name, more than another, and so it's great fun. And Morganite is just a beautiful, beautiful gemstone.
Yeah, I didn't, because like I said, I was shopping on your website before, and I came across it, and I was like, I had never thought about that, but it's interesting because I
Mhm.
think again, it's like, how do you find things that sort of stand out and tell a story that feel a little bit more unique? Uh, and especially when we're women business leaders, it's like, how do you find ways to kind of stand out? And so, yeah,
Mhm.
I think when I continue my shopping, that might be back in the cart for me. So, what would you
Beautiful.
tell like 25-year-old Lisa now that you're like head boss lady at the family business?
I think I would tell myself to continue to soak in as much as I can, to find learning opportunities everywhere that I go, and to really take them to heart. I I think that I tried to do that, but I think it's so important to recognize that each experience and each opportunity and each person that you come into contact with has something that they can teach you, and so to continue to recognize that and soak it all in and be as thoughtful about that as you can. I think 25-year-old Lisa was running as fast as she could, and I think probably could have used a quiet moment
To
to
slow
to,
down a
to
bit.
reflect, exactly, and try and be thoughtful in that way.
Awesome. And so now that you're kind of you're the boss lady and you're in it for 12 months, where do you guys see us going next? Because you've already done holograms. So and they've sold me. Like I said, like if you can figure out put that on a website, I am all about it. Or next time I come to the West Coast, I'm hitting you guys up. But what do you
Absolutely, and
guys see for
we have
next?
wonderful people who can help from afar. No problem.
This is true. See, Christmas is coming. Laura has to treat herself.
Hmm.
You're gonna cause so much trouble, Lisa, but good trouble. But yeah, like what's next for you guys? Like where do you see yourselves going as you extend out in terms of technology and just as you now settle in to being CEO?
Well, I think continuing to evolve our experience, we just redesigned our in-store experience. We now have 3 stores in our new design, and really wanting to create a space for rich storytelling, for highlighting, how jewelry comes to being, that craftsmanship, the bringing that forward. Um, for example, in our stores, we have what we're calling the alchemy lab, where you can actually look in and see our watchmaker or a jeweler at work, from within the store, or as
Nice.
you're passing by, and seeing all of their tools up front. And so often, I think we pull jewelry from this incredible thing that nature has created, and the creativity that humans add to it, and we pull it all into this little white box, and wanting to do a better job of telling the story of how did that jewelry come into being, how was it made, how was it created, and all of the passion that goes into it. And so wanting to bring that to life through our in-store experience, wanting to bring that to life through our digital experience, and at each touch point that we have with our customers. And so that's going to be a big part of our focus moving forward, is continuing to evolve that experience, creating dynamic and rich experiences for our customers that they can't find anywhere else.
Awesome. So, point of personal privilege. Would you guys ever open a store on the East Coast?
We're
Because
always looking at new opportunities.
just saying, because in New York, or New Jersey, or like Connecticut, just saying.
Somewhere in the area.
Long Island, like where I grew up, like just saying, like we love our jewelry out here, and I just think that all kidding aside, and that that level of commitment to service for your customers oftentimes is lacking, and when you have so much in a congested city like New York City, that it's easy to see how something like your company could stand out because I don't see that often, and yeah, I think everything gets very commoditized. It definitely sounds like you all have figured out a way to grow but not become this boring commodity, but to still be about the customer service that feels so welcoming. So that's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You know, it comes down to every experience that somebody has with Ben Bridge. It doesn't matter anything that I'm doing or decisions that I'm making. If you don't have a great experience when you walk through our doors or you come on our website, um, then nothing else really matters. It all comes down to every single touch point we have with our customers.
So you're a great CEO. You've got it all figured out. What does Lisa do for her self-care? So is that hiking, spa treatments, a glass of red wine at your favorite bar after five? What's the thing that, you sort of look to as your way to kind of get away and have your time for yourself? Because I know as busy executives, we oftentimes don't place a lot of time for ourselves, but it's so vastly important that we do. So I'd love for you to hear what you're able to do.
Well, I need to do something active each day. So, for me, working out, whether it's running or cycling or going for a walk with my husband, is really important. Something that I can go and move. Um, I place a high priority on that, whether it's in the winter going skiing, or in the summer being out on the lake. But
Awesome.
doing something active in that way is really important. And I have really wonderful friends and family, so I place a high priority on spending time with the incredible people in my life. They give me great grounding and um, are such a wonderful support and part of my life that I really cherish time with them, whether it's doing one of those active things or going out to a meal or a phone call to my friends on other coasts. That is a is very important to me and makes me a happier human.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was such a lovely and thoughtful answer. Lisa, I could talk to you about jewelry all day long because it's one of my favorite things on earth. But thank you
Agreed.
so much for doing the show. It was such a delight.
Well, it was wonderful. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And that's our show.